I would like to call the Flint Board of Education Committee of the whole meeting to order at 6:30. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. We know Vice President Wright is not here, she is absent. Secretary Ramsdell.
Here.
Treasurer Green.
Present.
Trustee McIntosh. Trustee Perry.
Here.
Trustee Strozier. Trustee Strozier, can I hear Blake earlier? I am present. Trustee McIntosh. Absent. And Trustee Strozier. Absent. Okay. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. Public members that have joined our meeting remotely are able to submit their comments to the question section of this platform to have them read aloud, or may send an email prior to the meeting to fboe@flintschools.org. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education, by its bylaw 1370, are not obligated to answer questions, make statements, or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be included in the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. At this time, I'll ask Steve if there are any comments from the public.
Good evening. There's currently no questions, but I did get a comment. Casey, your audio is pretty rough still.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I will, let me turn this over to the Human Resources Committee, and then I'll call in with my phone to fix that.
Oh, Lord, I forgot all about that. Give me a minute. Give me a second, y'all.
Okay, well then I'll call in right now, and then
I
I'll turn
forgot I was up first. Just a minute. I got it. I'd like to call. There it is. Wait a minute. Hold on. I am so sorry. I'm sitting here just as tough and didn't pull up anything. Okay, here it is. Here I am. All right. I'd like to call the Human Resources Committee of the Whole to order, and I would like to call upon Mrs. Washington to present action items to the board. Mrs. Washington.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I seek your approval to move action item 1.9 personnel recommendations to the regular board meeting on September the 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Could you all show that on the screen, please?
And Casey, I got like 4 text messages saying they can't hear you at all. So just,
Can you
keep
hear-
that in mind.
Ms. Perry, I don't have the resolution in the, given to Stephen. So all he has is the agenda.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Am I good now?
Did
Can
you-
everybody hear me?
Ms. Perry, did you want me to go over the personnel recommendations?
No, that's all right. That's okay.
Okay.
So it's been moved and properly second. I'm going again and say, any discussion? Okay,
Can you hear
seeing
me
none.
now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. No discussion. I just want to make sure that I can be heard.
Okay,
I can't.
seeing no discussion, the motion to move action item 1.9 personnel recommendations to the regular board for adoption will be conducted by the roll call vote. As I say your name, say yes or no if you're going to accept or deny. President Lester,
Accept.
Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Treasurer Green.
I need to know what the personal recommendations is. I'm sorry, guys. It's such a bad connection. I can't really hear anybody that well, Ms. Perry or Casey. So can you tell us what the personal recommendations are, please, Mrs. Washington?
Yes, I can. Okay, so for the personnel recommendations, we have 5 recommendations for employment. So we have 3 LSS teachers, 1 assistant principal for home STEM, and then 1 administrative assistant for the Office of Finance and Operations. We
Okay.
also have 2 retirements and 4 resignations.
So
Does that satisfy you, Ms. Green?
Yeah, that's fine. That's wait. This who is the assistant principal at
Uh, Richard Russell has been recommended as the assistant principal for Holmes.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. Strozier.
All right. Forgive me, I'm on the road right now. To you, to Ms. Washington. I thought we already had an assistant principal over at Holmes Middle School.
We did, Mr. Strozier. The assistant principal was promoted to the principal of Doyle Ryder, and so that left a vacant position. And so we posted, interviewed, and selected, and now are recommending Mr. Richard Russell to fill that position. So Holmes still has 2 assistant principal positions. And so once Miss Daphne Jackson was promoted to principal of Doyle Ryder, that left a vacancy.
Okay. Ms. Baker, can I ask another question?
You sure can.
Devil's advocate. If our numbers don't normalize or stabilize, and we have to reduce our staff, will our middle school numbers still be enough that we will need 2 assistant principals? Because I don't want to hire someone and then in 2 months when our numbers come back and we have to make staff reductions, that now we're reducing staff and last one hired is always the first one fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much so impressed by Mr. Russell's his background.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just weary about bringing him on if our numbers don't materialize and we wind up reducing our staff and his name is on the list first.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to defer that question to Superintendent Stewart, please.
So, Mrs. Washington, Mr. Russell is currently a teacher with us, correct?
Correct.
So if our numbers do not materialize where we have enough to hold a second assistant principal, he could fall back into the teacher category, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Strozier, would that satisfy you? If our numbers do not materialize, he could easily go back to being a teacher, which is where he's coming from.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted some understanding of long-term strategy compared to where we are right now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give someone a position, then we take it back in a few months, and then they don't have anything. So knowing that he will fall back, I'm not saying that that's the intention. It's just I would just want some clarity on if there was a game plan, if our numbers didn't materialize.
Yes. And this is different versus someone coming from the outside. He's already one of our employees who's a teacher, and so he would be able to fall back into the teacher pool. And so that would be a benefit of, I guess, a plus of this one being hired from the inside.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Okay. So now, I left off with Miss Green. Did you say yes or what to pass?
Yes.
I thought I heard
Yeah,
Carol
yes,
McIntosh coming in.
Miss
I did.
McIntosh,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a question?
I do. I wanted to know, did we have any information as to why the other people resigned? And as to the guy Mr. Russell falling back into the teacher pool, will we have a classroom for him to teach when he falls back into the pool? Like Mr. Strozier said, if our numbers aren't substantial enough to justify having that many teachers, then I mean, how can we maneuver that with our budgets and everything being such?
Well, Mr. Russell has dual endorsements, and so we will look in those areas as to where he could fit to teach in various capacities. So where our vacancies exist, we will look at his certification and match him to a teaching position in the district.
Okay. So in other words, you're certain we'll have someplace for him. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, what our current, yes. I mean, even if that means that where there is like maybe contract staff or temporary interim staff that is filling a
Okay.
vacancy, we will look at placing Mr. Russell there if, you know, in the event that
Okay.
happens.
Yeah, he gets
So
to,
it's necessary.
Mhm.
And then did we have any information as to why those 4 people resigned?
I can get that information for you. It is not within the board packet, but
No,
I do keep it on a separate
no,
spreadsheet.
no. I just thought you might know
Oh, okay.
that they had moved on to other districts or something like that. All right. Thank you. That's all.
Mhm.
Okay, so I left off with Ms. Green and she said yay. Ms. McIntosh, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Strozier? Mr. Strozier?
I thought he said yes before he asked the question.
Yes.
Me-
Sorry about that.
Okay, and then
I muted
myself,
myself.
Vera Perry, yes. So the motion passes 6-0. All righty. Next, we have an information item, the United Teachers of Flint Incorporated grievance settlement. Ms. Washington.
Yes, so I would like to provide a brief overview of the grievance settlement. In the 1920 school year, pursuant to past practice, whenever there was a reorganization or schools move based upon district decision, the board and UTF would engage in an MOU that outlined the procedures for teachers moving to another building. And so during the 2019-20 school year, there was a movement of Flint Junior High to another location, and also a reconfiguration of grades from Southwestern Academy and ALA that um, caused teachers to move from those locations also over to Flint Junior High. UTF indicated that the district did not, that violated the process in regards to moving, paying teachers for packing and unpacking. Both parties met and reviewed the information and came to an agreement and saw where in some instances the district did not violate the policy, did not violate the contract, but we also acknowledged that there was board approved reorganization or movement of Flint Junior High, and honored the past practice of coming to a resolution to satisfy the teachers from coming by coming in over the summer and moving according to their principals reaching out to them to do so. So the settlement resulted in those teachers that were affected during the move. There were approximately 24 teachers. Those teachers will the district and UTF agreed upon them receiving additional PTO days credited to their bank. And so we wanted to share that information with you. And also moving forward, we are working very closely together to make sure that we are discussing the decisions that are made amongst district administration and how they impact UTF, and putting into place those procedures that will speak to packing and unpacking. This year, we actually entered into a MOU for packing and unpacking for teachers for the move of Holmes STEM. And so we just wanted to share the resolution with you regarding this grievance settlement between the district and UTF. And then also to let you know that the remedy is specific for that particular circumstance in 2019 and 20, and it does not set a precedent moving forward in regards to the contract and district procedures.
Are
Okay,
there any
kudos
questions?
to you.
Are there any questions?
No.
I'd
All
like
right
to make
then.
a comment. I'd like to make
Okay.
a comment. I commend you guys for doing the right thing and getting with the UTF. I think it's only fair. And it sounds good because I was afraid when you said it was 24 teachers and you reached a settlement agreement. I got nervous, so I think it was a win-win for everybody. So I just wanted to commend you ladies on excellent work.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh.
Okay, if there's no other comments, I'd like to say thank you to Mrs. Washington. And since there's no further action, I declare the Human Resources Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to President Lester for the Governance Committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you.
President
Thank you very
Lester.
much, Mr.
Okay.
It takes a second to unmute.
Gotcha.
Superintendent Stewart, did you see the email that Vice President Wright asked if you would chair the governance meeting since you were at? Okay,
Yes,
do you mind
sir.
taking it from here?
I got it. I would like to call the Governance Committee of the whole meeting to order.
Okay.
I would like to call upon Mrs. Stokowski to present the recommended changes to the purchasing policy. Mrs. Stokowski?
Yes, thank you very much. Am I able to share my screen, Stephen? Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, if I find my document. Okay. Oops. All right. I've prepared an edit to both the older, we'll call Flint version policy for the purchasing policy and for the Neola. So I'll just go through my changes. They are highlighted in yellow and bolded. And so currently the board policy, the older Flint board policy that we are abiding by, asks that all purchases, regardless of the amount, come for approval to the board. And I've inserted language here that says purchases under 5,000 that do not exceed the board approved budget require no further board action. So that would allow us to make the smaller purchases, the incidental purchases, to keep the district running without having that delay of further going to the board. All other purchases above 5,000 would require board approval. And I also added in a sentence about no purchases can be split to avoid proper board approval. The intent is not to take a $9,000 purchase and split it into 2 checks to avoid getting proper approval, and just wanted to make that very clear in the policy. Further down, currently the superintendent has the ability to make up to 3 emergency purchases up to $5,000 without getting prior approval, but of course notifying the board within 24 hours. And so we're just saying here we would like to keep that if we ran into a situation that it exceeded board approved. So if it was something that we had not intended at the time the budget was approved, it would still allow us to do that, and again notifying the board of that purchase. So that would be the changes on the current purchasing policy, the Flint purchasing policy. And then over here is the Neola policy. In what I've highlighted in yellow talks again about the changes, and I added a line in here that at all times, the superintendent will ensure that all purchasing is deemed necessary and essential for the school district, especially during a deficit budget. Just formalizing that, we are, always conscious of our fiscal status and only purchasing or doing what we absolutely have to do. The second edit is a correction, I think, from a Fboe when it was first adopted. It says we seek informal price quotes from 0 to 500. And then B talks about getting 3 competitive above 5,000. So I think this should have been 5,000. Otherwise, we're not addressing anything over 501. Okay. And then again, currently, the Neola policy does say that we can purchase items under 5,000. So right now the two policies are conflicting. And so I'm just adding in that additional line as long as it does not exceed the board approved budget, so that it would be the same as the other. And then again, adding in that information at the emergency purchases for the superintendent, if there's expenditure less than 5,000 that is not a part of the board approved budget, she would have emergency purchase to do so, as long as she notifies the board president within 24 hours and the rest of the board at the next scheduled meeting. And that last sentence there, clarification, should be on the other one too. I didn't think about doing that until right now, so I do apologize. But we wanted to add with notification to the board president within 24 hours of the purchase, and the rest of the board would be notified at the next scheduled regular meeting.
Okay. I have a question.
I do too. Who do we direct our questions to, President Lester?
Can we go ahead and just get us into discussion?
Sure, Anita, you're running this, correct?
Yes. So, Ms. Pekelski, did you go over both of them, both of the policies? And then we can go into discussion?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, all right.
But I would like to make a motion to move it to the full board.
So moved. So moved.
I just did. I did that. You need to second it.
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just have a question, and I'm fine with whatever.
Yes, Mrs. Ramsdale.
So actually, the two policies are pretty much identical. And one goes under the Flint board, and the other one goes under Neola.
Yes.
I'm sure I know why we need, again, I would go back to, I'm not sure why we need one or the other. I mean, that why we would need two. If we need two, we can put them both in. But since they say the same thing, I think it's just a matter of deciding, do we want to stay with one and go with the Neola, as long as everybody is satisfied with it? Or do we want to have two statements, or do we want to negate Neola and do the other one? I don't know that it really matters too much, but since we put all the time into Neola, if anybody, I don't know if it would ever come up, would we be following policy? Now, and like I say, to me, I think doing either one is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just so it's, I don't know if I've confused it more than what I've helped with it, but, or, but I don't see any sense in having two policies, two policies that say exactly the same thing.
And that has been the confusion, having the two. And so Mrs. Pekelski is bringing the two here for you today so that we can, so that the board can look at the two and decide on, hopefully decide on one, so that we can just move forward using just one of them. I'm sorry, Mr. Strozier, you had a question?
Yes, kind of going along with what Mrs. Ramsdale was saying. The whole Neola and our policy.
You're going in and out, Mr. Strozier. Are you still there, Mr. Strozier?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. I think Neola was built off of our past administration saying that there was a lot of or lack of clarity in some of our policies with certain things. My question has to deal with I believe we passed a resolution under Superintendent Watkins that if there had to be emergency purchases of over a certain amount, that those would still be warranted under that policy. So are we still using that policy and in accordance with this new policy? Well, not new policy, but in accordance with what we've already passed, or has that policy been basically removed?
So Mrs. Stokowski has incorporated it into the 2 revisions that you have in front of you.
So that would be the 3 times that you can ask that the superintendent can go above that 5,000, correct?
The emergency purchases with the conversation with the board president, and then there's 3 times to do an emergency purchase.
Okay.
Up to 5,000.
Up to, so anything above 5,000 will still have to go to the board. Will still go to the board anyway.
Yes, sir.
Because my question had to deal with if there was a purchase that had to be made that was more than 5,000. I believe Superintendent Watkins had the latitude to just do it and then inform us afterwards. So I just want to make sure that we've taken that. If we've taken that out of the equation now, then I want to make sure that it's out and that it's not something that we can go back and try to tinker with later on. Because if we're eliminating that from the entire policy, then are we retracting that whole policy that was brought to us back in 2012 or 13? I can't remember which year. So that I just want to make sure we were backtracking ourselves on that one.
It says the superintendent may also approve a contingent purchase of up to 5,000 3 times a month. And now I have had to do a purchase that was larger than 5,000 when we had the flood at Northwestern. However, I still contacted President Lester to let him know what the situation was. And at that point in time, we had water that was overflowing in the parking lot, and it was also causing an issue with our neighboring community at Northwestern. And so that did go a little, well, it did go over 5,000, but I received approval from President Lester prior to doing it. And it was an emergency. We had a flood in the parking lot that was overflowing into the community.
I think you should be able to do that. Some things may come up that just, that has to be done right now.
And that's kind of where I was going. I know two separate things though, but the latitude to make decisions, I just want to make sure that you have that, and it's not landlocked into if it's over 5,000, you can't make the decision. Like for example, at the church we have a parking lot that needs to be replaced, and if we had to do it, I want to be able to have that authority to say, call the people over my board to say, need this done, it's getting done, it's finished, and not have to convene the entire the entire board together just to make a decision I can make just by contacting 2 people. So that's kind of how I was looking at it, was not to landlock the superintendent into saying you cannot make a decision over 5,000 when board policy actually says you can make the policy, but we're making renovations and tweaks on our other policy that says you can't. So I didn't want there to be misunderstanding or anything like that, because we do have policy that says you have that authority, but we also have this policy today that's before us that's saying you don't have that authority now. So that's all of them. That was the confusion that could potentially come from that.
And if I may,
Ms. McIntosh, Ms. Green had her hand up first. Can I go to Ms. Green and then come to you? No, it's fine.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
Absolutely. Okay. No, that's fine because I can't see. So yeah.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh and Mrs. Stewart. I know we talked about this in the past. Me and Carrie have had, Mr. Kowski, I'm sorry, Carrie. We've had several conversations about it. And I know I requested somebody from Neola be here. Questions, and I still have questions because I understand that we had a policy as a community school to have a policy. And the main or the most of the schools in the district are using Neola, and Neola is paid for up until a certain date. And I think Carrie did a great job by incorporating some of our old policies to Neola. So without my questions being asked about Neola, I guess I'm still supporting Neola like I've been doing, because I think we need to move on for a lot of old we have been doing or used to do. So I just wanted to, really not a question, just a comment.
Mrs. McIntosh?
As far as the financial end of making purchases over $5,000, I have the utmost confidence in Ms. Stewart that she will be physically and financially responsible. However, if we talk in policy, I don't know if we should pass up the opportunity to do our due diligence, because everybody ain't like Ms. Stewart. And are we going to update this? And I think with our financial situations being what they are, I like how Ms. Stewart handled it. She had a situation. She got in touch with the president, and it was an emergency. I think that was a fine way to handle it. I mean, I don't know which that would fall up under, but I think that was a sufficient and responsible reply to a emergency situation.
Okay.
Mrs. Ramsdale?
All right. I guess I'm going to ask Ms. Perry. Ms. Perry, do you want to move both resolutions to the full board? Since we have pretty much a full board here, should we pick one and just go for it and then just move that to the full board? What would be your preference?
Because we're not in agreement on stuff, I'd say move them both.
Okay.
For point of clarity, board, I need clarity as a whole from you. Are you considering this action that you're taking your first reading tonight, or are you making the motion that we're moving these two policies to the board next week for a first reading? That's what I really need to know.
I thought we were moving this to the board next week for the first reading.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarity on. So it will be moving both policies to the September 16th board meeting for a first reading, and then your adoption won't occur until early October.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so I seek your approval to move both policies to the full board for first reading next week.
So
I'd already made the motion's already been made and second. All we need to do is vote.
Okay. All right, got it. Okay, so roll call. President Lester.
Aye.
Mrs. Ramsdale?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Aye.
Ms. McIntosh?
Aye.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Strozier? Mr. Strozier? And Mrs. Wright, who is absent. It passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sikelski. Seeing no further action, I declare the Governance Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to Treasurer Green for the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole meeting to order. I would like to call on Mr. Kowski to present to the board.
Good evening again. In your packet, please find the minutes for August 5th, Finance Operations Subcommittee, and September 5th, Finance Operations Subcommittee minutes.
Does anyone have any questions? I can't see everybody, so if you have a question, please feel free to chime in. No, Miss Perry? Ms.
No.
Ramsdale?
Nope, I'm good
Okay. Mr. Strozier, any questions? President Lester, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Trustee McIntosh, any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Okay. All right, I think I'm next, Treasurer Green. I seek your approval to move action item 11.36, change of scope project for JCI to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we move action item 11.36, change of scope of project to the regular board meeting September 16, 2020 for adoption. Is there any discussion? Ms. McIntosh says I can't see you. I'm sorry.
No, ma'am.
Mr. President Lester?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I see Ms. Perry. Questions?
Nope.
Mrs. Ram, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the motion is to move action item 11.
Treasurer Green, actually, there's 3 options and we need to pick one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. Let me see. It's 3 options as far as 11.36. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, and it's not worded that way in the script, but in your executive summary, there are 3 proposed options on how to amend the JCI project, and we need to, and so it's kind of a fill in the blank resolution. So I don't know if we're having that discussion tonight. We do have JCI and Sodexo available if any board member has any question. I'm happy to go over the 3 different proposals, but we do need to actually pick one of the 3.
Okay. So just so everybody know, we're talking about Northwestern and what we're going to do with Central Kitchen, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, right, the
Right.
whole JCI finishing, we have to amend the scope that the board had previously adopted in the spring of 2019. And because we don't have as much funding as needed to fulfill that scope, we have to make a decision as to how to change that.
Okay.
So I outlined a couple of options that we've been working with JCI to determine with the amount of money that we have, which is just under $15 million for the whole project, which option the board desires to pursue.
Does anybody need any clarification or have any questions around the 3 options that Mr. Kelsey is speaking on?
I would like some clarification. Are they all in 13.36, or does it include 3.7 and 3.8, or what?
Well, it's all the same motion, 11.36. So let me try to look at your board book. I believe it's all posted in there. Is that correct, Monica?
No.
Yep, there's the JCI scope and the executive summary is in your packet, hopefully, if you're able to have a copy of that. But I'm happy to go over it, and I can, again, we do have the experts here available if you have further technical questions that maybe I can't answer.
Okay. Mr. Kelsey, if you can go over those 3. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Stroker. Oh, is that President Lester?
Yeah, no, that's good. If I think, personal opinion, I would like to hear administration's opinion as well as Sodexo and JCI, if we could kind of get, and I don't need a 30-minute spiel from everybody, if we could just kind of get a quick and dirty from the three main people involved, I think that would be important, at least for me.
And
I'd like to know their opinion.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to kind of go over what I wrote in the executive summary, because obviously that was the summary that I gave, and it's not very long. So so just want to kind of, let me just first by refreshing what the original scope had. First of all, the original scope was for the administration building, Brownell, Doyle Ryder, Eisenhower, Freeman, Holmes, Pierce, and Potter. ALA, Southwestern, and DTM are not part of this scope at all. And each of the buildings for the project pretty much have the same things. They were to upgrade and fix the boilers and get new boilers, which has been done. The original scope included air conditioning or chillers, you might hear it referred to, for all of the buildings, doing building envelope work, which is kind of like closing up the building for any holes and leaks and making it more energy efficient, energy conservation, and lighting. So those were, for each building, that was pretty much the gist of what was going to happen at the 8 buildings. So that was broke down into phase 1 and phase 2. And phase 1 is pretty much completed as far as like the big work, the boilers and such. And then we also have air conditioning is already installed at Nethercutt. I didn't mention Nethercutt, but that's our other 8 building because I was looking at the wrong list here on my sheet. So with us having a reduction in funding, what we're trying to do is figure out what projects were most important. So one of the ones that myself, Superintendent Stewart, Mr. Chapman identified was putting air conditioning in our buildings and you know, making that kind of more of the priority, and how can we get that done. So we, in all 3 proposals, we have air conditioning going in at Holmes Middle School STEM Academy, Potter, and fixing the air conditioning at Doyle Ryder. So the big question comes into play is what to do with Northwestern. If we leave Northwestern as is, which is the 3rd scope of work, wait, I'm actually not sure. I had to read my notes, I apologize. Let me go back to my notes. The first scope removes air conditioning from administration, Brownell, Eisenhower, Freeman, and Pierce. It removes almost all of the water conservation at all the buildings, and the lighting upgrades are removed from administration, Brownell, and Holmes. What it does allow for is us to separate central kitchen at Northwestern, so that only that portion of Northwestern is being heated and cooled and is usable. It shuts the water and everything else off from the rest of the building, pretty much making the rest of Northwestern unusable. Not included in the JCI proposal, we would have to build a firewall to separate it. That would be things that, you know, the fire marshal would mandate. So that would be an additional cost. And to do that, the price tag is a little over 1.3 million, not including the wall. We don't have a price on that. The second scope that we presented adds back the water conservation and the lighting at all buildings except for the ad building. And this would assume that the central kitchen moves out of Northwestern. It does kind of close, or what they call lay up, Northwestern. So that would be beneficial if the district ever plans to reopen Northwestern. So then that brings in that conversation of where would central kitchen go and what would those costs be. The third is the third scope presented removes laying up, removes the layup of Northwestern. So pretty much. Oops, do you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can now. I didn't hear.
Oh, sorry. The third proposal or scope removes the layup of Northwestern, kind of just removes central kitchen from there and not doing anything else to the building, similar to I think what's been done in the past. And then we would be able to add back the exterior lighting at the ad building and then add air conditioning at Freeman. And of course, we would have the additional cost of moving the central kitchen if we were to move that. And we did discuss some of these earlier, and I should say we can have a fourth option, which would be leaving central kitchen as is and Northwestern as is and doing nothing. And if we were to do that, we would then be able to do, again, having the exterior lighting or the air conditioning at Freeman. I'm sorry, that's still part of that third option, so leaving that there. So we could move the kitchen or not, and then we have to decide what we want to do with Northwestern, if we're going to close, if we leave kitchen there, are we going to close it off, or are we going to leave the building open? The only concern about leaving the building open is the issue that we talked about a few months ago for the catastrophic event, if you will, the piping bursting, that is always a potential. And if that happens, JCI has said that that building would be rendered useless right away. And if that was like in the middle of a school year, there would be concerns about, obviously, if kitchen was unusable, how would we feed the students? So that's just a consideration to think about for the third scope.
Question. What?
I'm gonna let Mrs.
talk-
Williams, but then I'm gonna call on you, Ms.
Okay, what? If you were to move the kitchen, where would you move it to? Southwest?
Okay, the suggestion that, we've been in some conversations with Sodexo, and it would kind of be a split. It wouldn't be a central where we would cook for Holmes and Brownell out of the Holmes kitchen, and then for the rest of the district out of Southwestern.
And if we take a chance and postpone this for a year, we could end up in a big mess. And if we don't, and we've already put so much money into this, but I have to say, I'm more concerned about getting the air conditioning, some of that things into the elementary buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really am. If we could, Northwestern, I guess I feel at this point, should we just close it up? I'm not sure. But no, I think the elementary buildings and air conditioning, that kind of thing has to come first. And if we have to cut our losses at Northwestern and move those kitchens to Southwestern and Holmes, that's just my thoughts right now. I don't have anything set in stone in my head.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ramsdale. Ms. Perry?
Yes, we had a lot of discussion in our finance and operation meeting. And here's where I stand. We've already put about $1 million or more into that kitchen. I am not going to be embarrassed anymore moving that kitchen. So my suggestion is we go ahead, close Northwestern down for everything, and just keep our central kitchen. And because I can't. To me, that's not being fiscally responsible to spend money here and go right across the street and spend some more money. It doesn't make sense. So I'd rather just keep central kitchen where it is, do the other things that we need to do that Sodexo said that they need to have to make that kitchen run properly, and give our elementary schools some air conditioning, because those buildings are hot.
Right.
And it's not fair for students and staff to have to work into that type of heat. So that's where I am.
Okay, well, I have no issue with that.
I'd like to be recognized.
Anything else, Ms. Perry?
No, Ms. McIntosh had her hand up. Did you hear me?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
I was waiting for the chair to recognize me. Are you chairing this, Miss Perry? I'm sorry, y'all. I done got
Oh,
lost.
Danielle, Danielle, your voice is,
Y'all,
we're losing.
oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mrs. McIntosh. Sorry, guys.
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay. I'm with Miss Perry because we didn't move the dock doors in the cafeteria, which I was against that. Okay. So we've come a long way to make that kitchen nice. And that's just it. We put a new track over there. I think whatever we can keep alive, especially dealing with the kitchen, we should, because we're so heavily invested physically, financially, because it took a long time to get that done. And we just tied up so much money and just so many resources. So I think that to move a kitchen and spend some money somewhere else, and then you're going to have to bring those up to par, and that ain't, it's just not smart to move the kitchen, because the kitchen is finally nice. So I'm with Miss Perry. I'm all for the kids getting air. They definitely need it. I think we should keep the central kitchen where it's at and don't use the rest of the building. Get safe in that aspect, but I'm voting with Miss Perry on that. If I had to make a vote, I don't know if we're voting or not tonight, but I'm with Miss Perry. I yield back.
Thank you, Miss. I appreciate you. President Lester, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, please. Can we hear from Sodexo and JCI as well, real quick? Just their 2-minute synopsis of their opinion.
I'm calling on you, President Lester. If you have nothing to say, I'm going to see if Blake has something to say, and then we'll get them into the conversation.
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. Can you hear me?
I can. I was just asking to hear from Sodexo and JCI.
And I heard that. But what I'm doing is letting you as a board member chime in. If you have something to say, then I'm going to ask Blake, and then I'm going to ask the DESCO and JCI to chime in. I'm just trying to get all the board
Gotcha.
members out the way, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Bad connection.
Can you hear me
We
now?
can hear you. We can
All
hear
right.
you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, just listening to what the conversation has been, we've sank a lot of money into that building that came out of our food services budget. Money that in reality we couldn't spend for anything else. It had to be spent towards our central kitchen. The location, I'll continue to say I think it was a bad location from the beginning. I think that we could have utilized a rented space in downtown or a more centralized location. Truth be told, we could have used part of the administration building for that purpose. I don't think that I do believe that we're kind of stuck with a lemon right now. While we put almost over $750,000 into it, I still believe that we should be prudent and at least try to make things work in Northwestern for right now. To move it would be seemingly unwise financially, especially since we did promise that we would put air conditioners in all of our buildings, and that has been a pledge that the district has been going for the past few years. So I am hesitant, but I do understand the logic of why we should stay in Northwestern. But I would like to say this. I'm not an advocate for abandoning the administration building. I believe that we need to use Northwestern as a community center per se, where we could actually allow the community to use the building rather than us just mothball it. Because I just see it as being there's so much potential that if we actually invest into it, could be a great opportunity for the district. So, that's my part. I understand the logic. I'm nervous about continuing there because I know that it was meant to be a school. It wasn't meant to be a central kitchen. It was meant for the purpose of educating students. And even though we made renovations and upgrades to it, it's still a school. And we should have just went and found a building or space, or even constructed a building in downtown or somewhere in the area of the culture center that we own, and just constructed a building for us to have our own central kitchen. But that's that's watering the bridge now. We have to just keep pushing forward. So, I'm in consensus with the rest of the board with their decisions.
Yeah.
Let me thank you, Mr. Strozier. Mr. Kowski, can you answer this question for me? Which option would be keeping Central Kitchen at Northwestern and closing off the rest of the building? Which option is that included in?
So if we want to close it, that would be option 1, and that comes with that hefty price tag. If we want to just keep it there and not lay up any of the building or move anything and just have the entire building open, that would be option number 3. So that sounds like one of those. If we do number 3, we can get air conditioning at Freeman. So that's another building that we get air. So we would have Holmes, Freeman, Doyle Ryder, and Potter with air conditioning. So if we decide not to do anything with just leave Central Kitchen as is right now. So those would be the 2 it sounds like the board is most inclined to do. It's whether or not you close it. If we close that building up and we pay JCI to do that, it pretty much makes the rest of the building unusable at any time. It would be, it would cost a lot of money to ever make that building usable again. So if you're thinking that we want to use that building for some other purposes in the future, option 3 sounds kind of where the board is more inclined. So we just wanted to give you these options so that, and the information so that you can make your decision based on all of that.
Okay. Ms. Green?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Mrs. Ramsdale.
Okay, I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And I understand Blake's feelings. I mean, I opened that building. I hate to have to close it. I understand where people are coming from. Frankly, what we do is we have to use the buildings we have available to do what we can with the kids. And as the district pulls itself out and builds itself up, then we can look at the other things. But I'm all for leaving the Central Kitchen there and not putting up the firewall, because that'll cost us a fortune, and doing what we can to see if we don't get leaks and all other things. But it'd be wonderful to do all the things we want to do with everything, but we can't. So we have to do the best we can with what we have for our kids. And that's what's important. Air conditioning, education, all of that kind of stuff. That's at the top of the list. So those are my feelings.
Okay, I see you, Ms. Perry. We want to, and as I said before, I was letting each board member kind of share their thoughts so we can get Tedesco and JCI in to have some of the, maybe trigger some more questions or maybe clear up some questions. I would do that right now, and after they finish, maybe we can go back around to each board member if that's okay with everybody. Okay, Mr. Kowski, to chime in, Tedesco or JCI.
Sure, let's have JCI speak first. And we have on the webinar, we actually have 3 JCI members, but I believe, Dan, do you want to go ahead and start that you're kind of, well, first tell them how I did. Did I do a good job explaining the scopes, and if there's any corrections that need to be made, maybe do that.
Yeah, this is Dan. Good evening, members of the board. You did a good job. This is a complicated issue. There were a lot of different improvements at each building, that were completed, and the lighting was one that wasn't completed yet, water conservation. But this issue with Northwestern is a tough one. The decision was made to move the Central Kitchen there. The issue with that building is it's a very large building. Central Kitchen takes up a small area, and the systems, the mechanical systems, control systems, lighting systems are in terrible shape there. So the only, and I'm not going to make any recommendations either way. These are your decisions. But if you leave the kitchen there and run the building as is, you could have that catastrophic event. But the other side of it is the maintenance that has to be kept up to keep that building warm enough so it doesn't freeze, primarily in the wintertime. And then the utilities, there's a certain level of utility costs that you're going to incur. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know the utilities that we used in our baseline was somewhere close to $200,000 a year. You can turn the temperatures down to a certain degree, but without making major improvements, you're not going to have a lot of control over the rest of the building. So just some details that that we're aware of that maybe Carrie, you weren't aware of. But Dirk, is there anything you want to add to that? Dirk is our project manager. He's a little bit closer to the building than I am.
No, I think that's a good summary. To do it right is very expensive in terms of keeping the kitchen there and shutting the rest of the building down. The option of keeping the kitchen there, you basically are just, you've got their added costs of operating the building and doing repairs as they inevitably will keep coming. And also that the problem with basically the steam system that's out there, that the steam and the condensate, those pipes are in really bad shape.
All righty,
So
Mr. Cow. I'm sorry.
That Dan did a good job summarizing, and I think you all have a pretty good grasp of the issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And then we also have on the line Bernard from Sodexo to kind of talk about the kitchen, or if you have any questions about if you were to entertain moving. We just wanted to have him available if you had any questions. It was kind of a ask last week in finance, so he is available. So Mr. Gladney, are you on the call?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Hey, there you are.
I am. Good evening, board. I guess my quick comments is that I do echo the sentiments of a lot of things that the board has said, particularly with a lot of decisions that were made previous in terms of making the move to Northwestern. I know that was like the last option that was available when being forced out of the central kitchen that was downtown. I know that at least hearing all the scope and things, some of this information I wasn't privy to, but I do know that trying to relocate is going to be quite expensive as well, only from the standpoint of Southwestern. I think Blake said it, that Southwestern is also a school, and so trying to retrofit now, moving a lot of central kitchen over to Southwestern will be a whole nother project as well, and fiscally may not make the most sense. So that's really kind of my 2 cents.
Right, okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Kroger, I think that is.
To JCI's comment that they just had, is it possible to section off the building and reduce our costs per se? Because the way I'm looking at it is, we're only using maybe 15% of the building, but we will incur a bill for the entire 100% of the building. So that's my concern. How can we shut off certain things? And if we are going to mothball the whole building, what about vandalism? What about issues in, drainage? There's certain things that, I just, when you cap and plug a house in Flint, you don't just go in there, board up the door and just say, don't go in there. There's a process that goes into it to make sure that it's safe, that it's done accurately, and that it's done right. And if we're going to do that at a school that's over 100,000 square feet and only going to use 20,000 square feet of the building, what are we going to put in place to make sure that we're going to be preserving our finances? Because consumers is not going to say they're only using 15% of the building, we're going to give 15% of the bill. They're still going to want that 5,000, 6,000 bill every month. So how can that help me understand how we can section off parts of the building that have been controlled for Mrs. Ramsey, what do you say, about 50 years, that the entire building has been under for 50 plus years?
Yeah. It's been,
I think, and did you want JCI to answer that, Blake? Was that a question for them?
I would strictly ask JCI, and then the other reason, and I hate to be disrespectful to JCI, but from my understanding, you all were supposed to go through this when they did the assessment. So I'm kind of curious to why this is coming up now when JCI was supposed to do walkthroughs, give us their opinions, and give us recommendations. And now here we are in September, and we're looking at all these renovations and all these suggestions, when in reality, while the decision was rushed, JCI could have been there to give us understanding. And they did come before us at least 7 times with their suggestions. So the understanding, so the saying, well, we felt the past administration was telling us to hold information, that doesn't hold a candle to me, because you spoke 7 times, gave us your opinion, gave us how much you thought it was going to cost, and now all of a sudden it's an issue. So
A catastrophic issue.
Right.
So this is Dan Mack. I'll start the question off, and Dirk, you can add to that. So our original scope, well, first of all, when we were doing the walkthroughs, it was still being discussed whether the kitchen was going to be moved or not. So this was a little bit of a moving target, but our original scope was to lay up the rest of the building, not counting the firewall. And then the decision was made to move kids in there. So then we adjusted the scope, and we had to do some things to get the air conditioning running. And so we were just going to mothball the building outside of the kitchen. And so that was the plan, and then that changed, and now it's kind of back. So we still, that part of the plan doesn't really change, except that now instead of having the gym, the lockers, those were all going to be opened or kept open along with the food services. So that building has a steam system, and we were going to put a hot water boiler to take care of that area. And now that we're just talking about the kitchen, the scope has changed to putting on a rooftop unit. So our scope hasn't changed much in this area. What has changed is what's happening with the rest of the buildings in terms of the budget not being what it was to be when we signed the contract. So I don't know, does that answer the question?
I like to be recognized.
Hold on. Hold on. Doesn't answer the question. Not really. Because from my perspective, there were opportunities for you all to come to us and give us this information. We had discussions, conversations. There were contracts. I'm kind of feeling like I feel with THA now, that you'll tell us one thing, do another, or tell us one thing, give us another estimate. And with this whole concept right here, I understand that there's a lot that has to go into it, but can it be done is where I am right now. Because I don't want to say that we should do this. And I understand the whole dynamics that we're going through, but is this going to save money? That's my whole question. And it's not even a matter of JCI saying that they're going to do it for cheaper, or they're going to do it for a reduced price, but will this benefit the district long term?
So the original plan was to lay up the bulk of Northwestern. That was going to save energy dollars, because what we're going to do, and Herb can talk about the scope, but what you do is lay the building up properly, is to your earlier comment, to make sure that you don't have pipes freezing, and the boilers are properly drained and water lines are properly drained. So there's a lot that goes into it. And that was, we did bring that up. That was part of the original scope before the change and the kids were going to move back in. But now we're back to that area. We're still planning on doing that same level of work, and we're still planning on having that same level of savings in terms of your utilities, because you're not going to pay for the rest of the building being heated and cooled. And that was in this option 1. So you are going to have energy savings if you lay the building up properly. If you don't, then you've got to heat and cool, or at least heat the remainder of the building, and that's where the expense will really come in on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and Dan, maybe an explanation there too is the building will need to be heated because there's fire protection sprinkling, and the fire codes will require that if it's not fire separated. So you can't really just shut the.
Okay, that's something to keep in mind.
Mr. Stroger, did you have anything else that you wanted to add or had wanted to ask or add?
That's it for right now. Thank you.
I just want to say, I agree with Mr. Stroger 100% because the meetings we had, I think we think all our bases are covered when we have conversations, and we're finding out that's not true once again. I think when we asked for feedback, recommendations, and all that, we got it from the people who stand to gain the most. Moving forward, we need to get that type of information with somebody with no skin in the game, in my opinion, because it just like really cutting the check, due to whatever the circumstances may be. We're constantly cutting the check. So I just want to add that. I want to go to Ms. Perry because she had her hand up before JCI and so that's spoke. So Ms. Perry, then I'm going to go to Ms. McIntosh and then Mr. Lester.
Yeah, we've got to take this, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I have to. We've got to take this all the way back to when the idea of a technical junior high school had been brought to us. We were supposed to go to Northern. Well, we couldn't pay for all the money for Northern. It cost $30 million to get Northern where it needed to be. Then we were going to Baker College. That fell through. Then it was decided go to Northwestern. We were not prepared to go to Northwestern because that's why we've gotten dinged by OSHA with 2 fines because we actually put children in a dangerous situation. If we kept Northwestern open, we have to put $4 million into Northwestern to bring it up to code. Well, if we put that $4 million into Northwestern, if you went across the street to Holmes and they needed a new pencil sharpener, we wouldn't even have enough money to do that for Holmes. So we have to keep in mind there's a $4 million hanging over our head. To me, I will not support anything that says move that kitchen because I'm already feeling stupid because of the $1 million we put into it, that we were led down the Primrose Lane. And I'm not going to say by the companies. I'm going to say we're led by administration. There are some things that administration should have brought to us and told us. We didn't find out about MIOSHA until after the past superintendent left. We didn't even know about that. So we were making decisions based on zero information. And that's why it's so important for us to have all information. Because if a school can't be open for kids, but it's no need in being open, but we need a central kitchen. But I'm not prepared. I'm not going to support moving that kitchen anyplace else and splitting it between 2 schools. We have paid $1 million for it to sit at Northwestern. Let it sit at Northwestern and do what we need to do. But we got to go all the way back, everybody. Please don't forget, we made decisions on erroneous, and I'll say it again, erroneous information. And now we're left with the bag while that person is gone. I'm sorry, I got to call a spade a spade. So, thank goodness we have a superintendent that is working to bring us information. But I do believe things were hidden from us, and that's why we're in the shape we're in. So now we've got to wash that egg off our face and say, okay, we got to go ahead and eat the central kitchen where it is, and maybe down the line be able to put a little bit more money and then put some more money in Northwestern and be able to open it back up. Because if it's not going to be open for kids, I don't want it open for nobody. For nobody.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
it was built as Northwestern High School, not Northwestern Community Center. That's where I am with this. I'm done.
Exactly.
Carrie, Miss McIntosh.
First of all, I want to go all the way back down memory lane. When we started talking about Central Kitchen, before it was going to go to Northwestern, we was going to renovate somebody else's restaurant, okay? And I suggested we buy Applebee's, and did nobody want to do that? Well, somebody done bought Applebee's, and they finna probably do well. Now, we could have done had Applebee's. They wanted, look, 700, however much they wanted. We finna spend that, and we can't afford it now, and we could have probably better afforded it then. And I'm gonna take it even a step further back. This board promised to get somebody with some true superintendent experience, and then we brought in the previous administration, and we got what we got, and we got sucked in as a board. We didn't do our due diligence. We got divided. He played us like some suckers, and now we got egg on our face. That's how it went. And he sold us a dream, and that's all it was a dream. And he robbed us while we was dreaming, and he gone. So we can get over that. Now, if it's a catastrophic situation up at Northwestern, what about the community? What about people walking by? Will this affect new standards? Catastrophic is the word I'm hearing, and I don't care what was presented to us. In several different meetings, when you're talking catastrophic, all the information was not given. I don't care what the budget is. That should have been the first thing said in the conversation. You have a catastrophic situation going here. See what I mean? So the budget and all that has nothing to do with a catastrophic situation. The budget don't change that, whether it's $1 trillion or 200,000. Okay? Then here we are talking about moving Central Kitchen again. How much money is that going to cost that we don't have? Are we better off just staying virtual this year? And I mean, what is this? What does it all mean? I mean, we got to quit because we can have some money if we stop blowing our money. We have to make decisions for survival and not just a decision because we up against the timeline for today, because we are getting milked by everybody, I'm going to say it again, who rolls through here. And I always ask for 3 estimates, because if you get 3 estimates and know they're not going to sit in the car, because I'm not letting y'all all come on the same day. So if I make an appointment with him this week and then I make an appointment with somebody else next Thursday and he's sitting in the parking lot, well, they need to run game on me. If he got that kind of patience, we can get more than 1 estimate, but we never do that. We all put all our eggs in one basket and they all get broke at the same time. And yes, we guess who ends up with the yolk on their face? This board, okay? We need to start consulting with 2 or 3 different people when we're talking about these big money contracts, because somebody probably would have went in there and said, hey, y'all got a catastrophic situation here if we'd have called in 3 people. We didn't do that. We always fall for the fluff. So now we paying for fluff. So I'm with Miss Perry. We really afford to go somewhere, but then we got a catastrophic situation. We're gonna end up, even if it's catastrophic, I don't know if nobody's in there, does that stop it from being a catastrophic situation? Because life is precious, whether it's our students or somebody else, and we have a community close by. How big is this catastrophic situation? We got a real conversation to be had other than just Central Kitchen. How much does it cost to secure it so we don't end up in litigation from somebody riding through there on their little bike or their motorcycle or something if it's catastrophic? Can we shut that down? Will that alleviate the issue if we left Northwestern? So we got a whole nother conversation that we need to be having as a board. I'm done.
McIntosh.
I yield.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. President Lester, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, President Lester. I'm going to give President Lester a chance to speak
Here I am.
whenever he.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. So I think I'm a little bit confused about something. So it's my understanding that our initial contract with JCI, I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy. My initial contract with JCI was $19 million. And then because of funding and stuff not coming from the government, we had to go back to JCI and ask them to basically accept less money for what we already contracted out, right? I guess I'm confused. And if I'm missing something, please let me know. But what I understood was that this isn't JCI coming to us asking for more, this is us saying, hey, we can't be good on our original obligation. Am I wrong on that? That's how I understood
My
it.
issue,
And if I'm
well, that may be true, Casey. Excuse me for interrupting, but I want to clarify myself. That may be true, but my point is this: no matter what the budget is, no matter how we change the work order, if we have a catastrophic situation, the change in the work order does not change a catastrophic situation, nor does it change in the budget. That's my problem with this whole situation. And my problem isn't even with them. My problem is with us because we need to get multiple bids on these things because different people will have a different perspective and we missing the boat and it's costing us dearly. It's my issue now. Like I said, I don't know what we've done with the work orders. They always change. It never goes like we intended. It's always an issue with the budget with us. So this is a new information for us. But the catastrophicity is the issue that I'm having because that means major. That means lives possibly being lost. And I think if a professional company goes in, the first thing you should talk to me about is a catastrophic situation, period. Did I just get under a catastrophic situation? Did this just occur? I mean, because I'm just at a loss for words that we put a fancy kitchen over there and moved outdoors and had a catastrophic situation all along. I need some clarity. Maybe I need a point of clarity.
Okay,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you, Ms. That's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lester. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess in Ms. McIntosh, by all means, I completely get what you're saying, and I don't. I'm with you. But if I remember right, because this whole thing was my very first board meeting when I joined the board, and there was JCI, and I know there was at least one other company because I remember JCI's presentation was like 45 minutes long, and then the other guys had like a napkin scribbled together with a 5-minute, here's what we can do. So I'm pretty sure, and Monica, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought there were multiple bids for this, and then Northwestern, I don't believe was supposed to be included in this, which in my opinion is why we would kind of have that gap, right? So if I quote and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and don't look at Northwestern, because Northwestern was added after we had already contracted this. Am I wrong in that, or is that, because that's how I remember it? But if that's not correct, please correct me, because that's why. What I don't want to do is paint JCI to be the bad guy here, because I don't think that that's necessarily the truth. I think this is something that they've tried to be the best partner they can, and we haven't always done our stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think when previous administration added Northwestern into the mix, that changed the entire scope of work, which is why now we have to talk about the catastrophic event because, yeah, so that's what I think. Am I right in that, or am I wrong?
I think you're right, Casey.
Are you asking Mo that question, Ms. President Lester?
Honestly, I'm asking anybody because it's been 2 years ago now, and if that's how it went.
Yes, you are correct, President Lester.
But it went that way, and you're right, it went that way, but again, we got led down the Primrose Lane.
Sure, but I don't think it was by JCI. I think it was previous
No,
administration.
I didn't say that. I said previous administration. I
Yes,
did
ma'am.
not
I
bring
just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure for me that I understand because, you know, I mean, we have a lot of partners and a lot of stuff going on. I want to make sure that my head is where, you know, it needs to be. So all of that taken into consideration, it's very, I think, very blatant to say that we're not going to move Central Kitchen. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, at least, yeah. So I think, in my opinion, it kind of comes down to laying up the other half of the building, which for me, if there's a cost savings there and we can eliminate some of that stuff, I mean, yeah, that makes the most sense to me. Obviously, the firewall is expensive, but then the cost savings over time of not using the other half of the building would, you know, we have a break-even point, what, a year down the road or something to that effect. So, yeah.
You lose a whole building that you can never use again.
You're not gonna use that building anytime soon anyway.
Let's let President Lester finish what he's saying
I'm
before.
sorry. You're right. I apologize, Casey.
No, that's fine. I mean, for me, this is more of a conversation than it is a monologue. So by all means, jump in because I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this and make the best decision. So I appreciate everybody's input.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a tough call. But I mean, like Betty said, I mean, we're probably not going to use that building in the next, you know, anytime soon anyway. So yeah. Okay. That's, I mean, if somebody else has stuff to say, go ahead. I'm just going to kind of think out loud and ramble if you let me keep going. So just cut me off.
I don't quite understand. We would mess. I don't know how this construction stuff goes, but how will we mess up using the building in the future by trying to make the building usable right now? Is it something we would destroy or have to? I guess I don't understand.
Danielle, from my understanding of engineering, if they
Okay.
put a firewall up in the building, you would pretty much mothball the entire rest of the building. So
Okay.
all your fire suppression, all those other parts, it would be difficult to have access or to use those things. So you're basically shutting off everything. So the heat to be shut off, water be shut off, but there's that. But it'd be hard to restart and reactivate it. So if you shut off those parts of the building, it's almost as if you were to go back in there in 5 years, you'd have to redo the entire, the new pipe system, new heating system, because you're basically shutting off everything to that part of the building. The question I had earlier was, how can we guarantee that though? Because there's no way to actually shut down a whole system that's been connected for 50 plus years.
Would it be helpful if we gave a little more? And I apologize if I'm cutting in. Herb Cavendish is our expert on the mechanical side. I think he could probably shed some light on those things. And I think I'll say one other thing before Herb goes. The original intent was to what we call lay up the building, and that would shut the systems down so that you would not have a catastrophic event. That would only be if the systems are continued to run the way that they are without putting money into the systems to upgrade them. So the original intent was to eliminate any possibility of a catastrophic event by laying up the rest of the building. So Herb, can you give some insight on the kind of the technical details of what that means?
Yes, this is Herb Cavendish. I spent a lot of time over the past year at Northwestern. Our original scope when we looked at that was to maintain the new food service area and the gym area along with the locker rooms. To do that, what we were planning on doing was relocate a water service and a gas service over to that area of the building. Currently, the west end houses the gym and the food services, and the boiler room and utilities come on the east end. So they're on the total opposite ends of the building. So by moving the services over there, that was going to give us the ability to take the domestic water, the heating water, and all the systems and basically lay them up. When we say that properly, we put chemicals in the boiler that preserve the boilers, and we put antifreeze, glycol in the traps of the plumbing and stuff like that. Not so in the future, you don't lose any more of the system than what's already deteriorated. It'll stay as is. By moving up the rest of the building, that eliminates your steam boiler system, and that's where your piping is failing. Pumps are failing on the converters. So we were putting a hot water boiler in the west end there that would serve the air handling equipment that feed the central kitchen and the gymnasium. By doing this, everything is located in the west end. Then it's like self-isolated. The rest of the building would be laid up to preserve as it is now. Not that it's going to help the system, but it would eliminate any more deterioration of the system if it was ever to be reactivated. So the parts of the system that we're looking at, failure would be eliminated for what the original scope was. From the beginning, when we started out there, it was a moving target. There was going to be kids there. There wasn't going to be kids there. It was moving back and forth. Then when the kids did come in, when those moved in there, then we got the system working best we could to get you through the winter, and then we got you through the summer with the chilled water system there, and basically limp the system along, which took a lot of maintenance to do. And to keep the system up, even to maintain a minimum heat to keep the building from freezing, will take maintenance and limping it along to do that. So that's where now with a failure versus where we would have been with the original scope.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions? I can only see Ms. Ramsdale and Ms. Perry. So if anybody else outside of those two have any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in.
Question for you. No disrespect to JCI, but you all will be retaining your presence in the building, won't you?
From what perspective?
I was under the impression that was kind of you guys's. You guys had actual staging area in the building. So if we're gonna shut down the entire facility, will JCI be leaving the facility as well, or will you all still maintain your location in the east area of the building?
We will be leaving that area. That area was our laydown area for the construction project. Once the construction is complete, we will be pulling out of that area.
So the building will be completely vacant. No one will be in the building, whether they be contractors or whether they be district personnel. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that has a comment or a question? Board members? All right, and Mr. Kelsey, I'm going to turn it over to you because there's no more discussion. So.
Okay, so thank you. I guess we would have to amend that earlier motion to include scope 1, 2, or 3. I'm not really sure how we go about that. Monica, how would we do that? Should we go through each?
Motion.
You made the original?
So I would be the one to have to reach to change it.
Right, I get that part, but I don't know, do you make the motion for each and see which one passes to the cow? Or I wasn't sure about that part.
You could take them separately and see what you get, or you could just, I can make the motion for, because what's the motion that I want? What's the one I said, keep the central kitchen and mothball the other? What's that?
So if you want to build the firewall, that's scope 1, and that would be no air conditioning at Freeman. If you want to leave Northwestern as is, and basically JCI doesn't do anything else there, that's option 3.
So Carrie, option 1 is to lay up Northwestern, and air condition would go where?
No, option 1 is to separate Central Kitchen from the rest of Northwestern, building the firewall and moving all of that equipment that Herb just said to that west end of the building where Central Kitchen lives. And that has a cost of, JCI is just 1.3, and then we have the additional cost of the firewall. We would still get air conditioning at, let me get my list here because I'm not good with my memory. Would have air conditioning at, oh, I know that. I'm sorry. Here, I'm thinking, I know that off the top of my head. Holmes, Doyle Ryder, and Potter would get air conditioning, and then we would pay that money. The rest of Northwestern would not be usable. They basically close it up, separate it. We'd have to do some things for the fire marshal. That's option 1. Option 2, or excuse me, option 3, I don't think we're interested in 2 at all. Option 3 is we leave Central Kitchen as is, Northwestern as is. The building's kind of open. They talked about some other concerns. It is expensive for utilities. It is, I do concur with the $200,000 a year in utilities because it is a very large building that we would have to pay. That would be taking funds away from our current buildings. And if we did that, then we would also be able to add in Freeman air conditioning.
So it will be air conditioning at Holmes, Freeman, Doyle Ryder, and Potter for option 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Actually, either option, we're screwed.
Can we get Ms. Ram's question right quick?
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, there's been so much information thrown at us. Can we just move this to the regular meeting and have an opportunity to think about it and ask other people questions and things?
So you're asking if we can move options 1 and 3 to the regular board meeting?
Well, whatever people kind of settle on. I want, but I think, you know, do we need time to wrap our heads around it? Does anybody else feel that way, or is that just me? You don't feel that way, Vera or Danielle? Okay.
I'm good.
I do.
All right.
Because not only do I need clarification, we have Mrs. Wright who's not on here. She may have some things that she wants to ask, you know, and I hate for anybody not to get an opportunity to have clarity. And are you done, Mrs. Ramsey? Because I have a question.
No, sure, go ahead, dear.
So if hypothetically speaking, if we choose option 3 and you name the schools who will get the central air, tell me who will not get it. Who's not going to have the air that we promised?
Excuse me.
That would that would leave us with, because Nethercutt already has air, so that would leave us with Brownell, Eisenhower, Pierce, and Pierce would be our third one, because I don't know what the promise was, but in the JCI scope, remember DTM, Southwestern, and ALA, they were not part, JCI is not doing anything at those 3 buildings. So, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure Southwestern does not have air, neither does DTM, but I wasn't sure if ALA had air. Maybe someone else on the call knows that information.
Okay. Question. Madam Chair?
And I just want to finish.
You're breaking
okay,
up.
We did promise when we were asking for. Can you guys hear me now? I'm sorry.
You're breaking up.
Service. You guys can't hear me at all. No? Okay, Mr. Strozier, go ahead. We can hear you good. Go ahead, Mr. Strozier.
Okay. Administration knows how passionate I am about and how we'd had discussions about Brownell. For us to sit here and say we're not going to put any air conditioning in Brownell, and the majority of our children that are younger and have potential for asthmatic episodes, have issues with their health, to be in a facility that is not really set for that is really not being looked at right now for air conditioning. I'm troubled by that, especially for a building that is as old as Brownell. I would hope that would have been one of the first facilities that we looked at getting air conditioning. So administration, help me understand this one now, because you put some paint on the building and say it looks good now, and I know that's not conducive to what I thought was going to happen. So my hope is that someone can explain to me what is going to be done to Brownell and these other buildings. I mean, elementary school buildings are where our children are. Majority of them are in our elementary school buildings. So for us not to put any air conditionings and to say, what's the logic behind this one gets it, this one doesn't get it. This one will get it in 2 years, but this one will get it right now, because it doesn't make sense right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah. So, Mr. Strozier, I concur with everything that you said. All of our elementary buildings need air. All of our elementary buildings need air. And if you recall, when we first started with this, it was a proposal for 19, and we thought, or the conversation was that we were going to get, Carrie helped me with the number, like $6 million was going to come from the state.
6.6 million is what
6 million was going to come from the state. We didn't get that money. And so therefore we had to go back to JCI and say, we need to readjust the scope of the work because we didn't get the 6.6. And so we only have 14. What can you do and what buildings can you do with the 14? It's never an easy decision to say we want this building versus that building. Never an easy decision, never. Because we know that all of our students deserve it. And so based off of what we had to work with, we asked JCI, what can you do? And so after JCI came back to us and they said, okay, if we got to take $6 million away from our contract, our proposal, and we can only work with 14, this is what we can do with the 14 that we have. And so it wasn't I want this school over that school. It was JCI, this is what we have to work with. What can you do? Knowing the infrastructure of our building, knowing the condition of our buildings, and some buildings is going to take a little more than others. And so JCI came back with the names that we have in front of you.
Thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome. I feel your pain. I feel your frustration. I do. It wasn't easy.
And don't get me wrong, Superintendent. It's not you. It's just I'm disheartened by the fact that we have to make decisions like this when, as you said, every school should get air conditioning.
Absolutely.
So I'm hurt by the fact that we have to pick and choose where we're going to send these resources to. Not by your hand, but it's just it bothers me that this is going to be, it's just terrible to know. That's all.
To go from being able to give all of thinking that we were going to give all our schools air to thinking that we were going to give all of our schools air to now having to make a decision. I am with you 120%, Mr. Strozier.
And as Ms. Green said, we made a promise to the people in Flint, and that was one of the things that a lot of them were building their hopes on with this past millage, was that every school was going to have air conditioning because we were going to retire our debt and we were going to be able to move forward with that money to make these improvements. So now that makes us look like we've been up there lying the whole time. So I agree with Ms. Perry. This is past administration's fault that we're having to live with now. We're having to eat this egg sandwich, and we didn't even want it. I mean, this sucks. I could say a whole bunch of other stuff, but I know that there are probably some people that probably would look at me funny if I said how I really feel right now. But this truly sucks that we have to make decisions like this when, every child in this district deserves to have air conditioning. Every child in this district shouldn't have to wear a sweater to class simply because of the temperature in the room. Every student deserves that. That's a God-given right, and so it's to be comfortable. And so I'm troubled by that. So, and as I said, it's not you. It's just this truly sucks to make these decisions right now. That because there will be if we ever do get back to school again, it may be in the middle of the winter time, and we all know our buildings are drafty and cold in winter time, hot and steamy in the summertime. So yeah, I'm just I yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Strozier. Thank you for being so patient, Ms. Perry.
You know what, y'all? So many people have so much to say, and I don't mean that in a negative way, so please don't take it that way. We need to pull this off. We need to table this. We need to have a meeting with only this on the agenda, because here it is, 8:16, and we still got a ton of stuff to go through to complete this meeting, and we're still hung up on this. We have got to move. We've got to table it and let administration and president pick a date. Do not put anything else. Okay, do not put anything else on the agenda. And if we have to talk for 3 hours on that, then that's all we're talking about. But we've got a lot of business to take care of, and we're not even we haven't even gotten. Oh my gosh. We're not even over half of what we need to talk about, and it's 8:17 your time. I'd like
your
to table
time
it.
too.
No, because I'm in Texas. That ain't my time.
No.
So we need to table this. This has got to be tabled. Let's move on.
I agree, because I refuse to be the next
too.
Eric Mays.
But this would be really good there, and God, you can't ask for much more than that in life.
Takes me back to the self-funded stuff. When we started these projects, you remember how we talked about the self-funded or whatever that was, the terminology that was used? I'm still missing the self-funded part. And also, as we set up a meeting moving forward, I would like to talk more about that, because I'm not seeing that. And also, is it any dollars from the bond or anywhere else that we can provide air for those three Pierce, Eisenhower, and Brownell? Because we have to provide this for them. These are basic necessities. And we promised the community, we promised the teachers, the families, that we would have this for them. So I would ask, as we're setting this meeting, administration and President Lester, that we look and find some dollars or something where we can give them at least what we promised.
Actually, on a meeting.
So, that being said, Terry said, I think we do need to
wait
tonight.
Wait a minute. As well, can we find out when our next drop from the state will come, so we can, because it's winter time, we don't need air in this very moment, but I like to know when funds will be available, maybe that we can move around. So can you have that information in that meeting as well, like what we can take from general funds and stuff like that?
Oh, no, that's all right, because they're all just talking. So, all right, and
Stephen, can you mute Mrs. Ramsdale until she comes back?
Receiving these messages or these requests, but if we can include these topics of conversations in the meeting moving forward about these three options, that would be great.
Ms. Green, in talking about this, we didn't have COVID when all this first came up. There was no COVID. It
That's
is
true.
very important now to have air in these buildings because we have to keep air circulating. And I don't know
Absolutely.
what it's going
Yes,
to
we
take.
have to.
So I would like them, as we're moving forward and pick a day for this meeting, we need to find out
Mhm.
what the state government, CDC, whatever these people are, what are they considering continuous movement of air? We need to
Right.
know that before we make any types of decisions, because if they
Oh,
say you need
absolutely.
air conditioning, then it's out of our hands anyway. We have to put the air conditioner. So can we
Absolutely.
find that information out for
Very good
our
question.
next meeting that we're going to talk about only this?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
What standard? Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's absolutely should be in conversation. Thank you, Ms. Perry. Is there
Yes, ma'am.
anyone else that wants to? So my goal is to get done with my portion of the meeting in the next 30 minutes or hour. So we're going to move because we have our request. We have made our request, and hopefully we can get that set up. So moving on. I don't know, Mr. Kowski, I lost track where we are. So
Sure. I seek your approval to move action item 11.37 CEO server migration to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So move.
Second.
So what action item are you doing, Mr. Kowski? I'm sorry, that's me. I'm a loss.
No, that's okay. 11.37, second one there.
So it has been properly moved and seconded that we move action item 11.37, CEO server migration to the regular board meeting on September 16, 2020 for adoption. Is there any discussion? I can only see Ms. Ramsdale and Ms. Perry, so please feel free to chime in. Ms. McIntosh, President Lester, Trustee Strozier. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the motion is to move action item 11.37, CEO server migration to the regular board for adoption. Conduct the roll call. Please say yes or no to approve this motion. President
Yes.
Diana Wright, who is absent. Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier,
Yes.
and myself, Treasurer Green, is yes. The motion passes. Is that 6-0?
Yes, it is.
Okay. 11.38 food services licensing. Ms. Sikowski.
Yep, then, I'm sorry. I seek your approval to move
Okay.
action item.
You froze, Miss Green.
Are we? It's Mr. Kelsey. Can you guys hear Mr. Kelsey?
May I okay?
I think.
Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Okay. I seek your approval to move action item 11.39 minor computer equipment to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Point of order. Point of order. I never voted on 11.37.
Oh.
I never got my name wasn't called to vote.
Oh, it wasn't. I apologize.
So my vote for 11. That's okay. No, I just didn't want us to move on because I didn't get a vote. So mine is yay for 11.37.
Okay. Ms. Perry. So we had this 11.38 has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Wait a minute. Wait. We didn't do 11.37 back on the CEO. Okay, now we're on 11.38. I'm sorry. I'm getting lost. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a long night.
Is there any discussion on 11.38? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 11.38, food service licenses to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester.
Yes.
Vice President Wright, who's absent. Secretary Ransdale.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Perry, Trustee
Yes.
Strozier,
Yes.
and myself, Treasurer Green, is motion passes 6-0. The next action item is 11.39, minor computer. Mr. Kowski.
So move.
No, Mr.
I seek your approval to move action item 11.39, minor computer equipment, to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we move action item 11.39, minor computer equipment, to the board meeting on September 16th for adoption. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 11.39, minor computer equipment, to the regular board meeting for adoption, I will conduct a roll call vote. If I say your name, say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President Wright, who's absent, Secretary Ramsdale,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier,
Yes.
and Treasurer Green, yes. The motion passes 6-0. 11.40, authorization to purchase network switches and modules. Ms. Sikowski.
I seek your approval to move action item 11.40, authorization to purchase network switches and modules, to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
Seconded.
So move.
It has been properly moved and seconded to move action item 11.40, authorization to purchase network switches and modules, to the regular board meeting on September 16, 2020 for adoption. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 11.40, authorization to purchase network switches and modules, to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President absent, Secretary Rams,
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh,
Yeah.
Trustee Terry,
Yes.
Trustee Stroh,
Yes.
and myself, Treasurer Green, is yes. Motion passes 6-0. Next action item is 11.41, authorization to upgrade security system. Ms. Sikowski.
I seek your approval to move action item 11.41, authorization to upgrade security systems, to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we move action item 11.41, authorization to upgrade security systems, to the regular board meeting on September 16, 2020 for adoption. Is there any discussion? No further discussion. The motion is to move action item 11.41, authorization to upgrade security systems, to the regular board meeting for adoption. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve the motion. President Lester,
Yes.
Vice President White, who's absent, Secretary Ransdale,
Yes.
Treasurer McIntosh,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
Trustee Strozier,
Yes.
myself, Treasurer, yes. Motion passes 6-0. The next action item 11.42, authorization to remove chemicals from Northern. Ms. Sikowski.
I seek your approval to move action item 11.42, authorization to remove chemicals from Northern, to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So move.
Second.
Seconded.
Is there any discussion on action item 11.42, authorization to move chemicals from Northern to the regular?
I'm just throwing a statement in here, Ms. Green, excuse me. But these are okay $5. this is the kind of thing to get us information maybe that would cut down our meeting times, but we would still have an opportunity to ask questions, just to give it some thought and some adjustments. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Is there any discussion to move action item 11.42, authorization to remove chemicals from Northern to the regular board meeting on September 16, 2020?
So moved.
Oh, we're on the discussion part.
Right.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 11.42, authorization to remove chemicals from Northern to the regular board meeting for adoption.
Can we take the rest in back?
Let me finish this one and then we'll entertain that. So let me just get this one out the way.
Okay.
As I call your name, yes or no to approve the motion. President Lester.
Yes.
Vice President Wright, who's absent. Secretary Ramsdale.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Trustee Strozier.
Yes.
And myself, Treasurer Green, yes. Motion passes 6-0. So Mrs. Ramsdale's question was, could we take the rest of them in batch? I have no problem with that. Does anybody on the board object to that?
And go.
Yeah, we do have objections or no? No objection? We'll take 11.43 through 11.47, Ms. Kostakowski, okay?
Okay.
So moved.
Oh, do you want me to list them out?
Talk on that, Mo, or do we just proceed?
You put it in your motion. You're going to take 11.43 through 11.47. So it's up to you if you want to have it listed, but you're good. And I heard Betty Ramsdale, but if you want to list them out, you can. So Kelsey, please read them.
Yeah, please.
Okay, yep, that's what I was just checking. I seek your approval to move action item 11.43, authorization to purchase chemicals for boilers. 11.44, authorization to replace administration building chiller with Northwestern chiller. 11.45, authorization to purchase key blanks. 11.46, authorization to purchase American flags. And 11.47, authorization to purchase glass. To the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we move action items 11.43, authorization to purchase chemicals for the boilers. Action item 11.44, authorization to replace administration building chillers with Northwestern chiller. 11.44, authorization to replace administrative building chillers. Oh, I said that one, I'm sorry. 11.45, authorization to purchase blanks. 11.46, authorization to purchase American flag. 11.47, authorization to purchase glass. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion is to move action item 11.43. Let me go back, y'all. 11.43, authorization to purchase chemicals and boilers. 11.44, authorization to replace administration's building chillers with Northwestern chillers. 11.45, authorization to purchase key blanks. 11.46, authorization to purchase American flags. 11.47, authorization to purchase glass. To the, hold on guys, hold on. Move to the regular board meeting. I will conduct a roll call vote. As I call your name, say yes or no to approve the motions. 11.4, what is it, 3.47. President Lester.
Yes.
President Wright, who's absent. Secretary Ramsdale.
Yes.
Trustee McIntosh.
Yeah.
Trustee Perry.
Yes.
Trustee Strozier.
Yes.
And myself, Treasurer Green, yes. Motions carry 6-0. I will now for Mr. Chapman, Director of Operations, Auxiliary Services, to give the board an update on the Potter parking lot project. Mr. Chapman, will you address the board?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to,
Thank you.
Monica, can we bring up those photos? Okay, I'd like to thank the city of Flint, Mayor Neely, John Daly, and the staff for the job that they did paving the Potter Elementary building, or parking lot. They did a wonderful job. They gave Potter Elementary staff, parents, and students a safe place to park. There's something to be very proud of. Right now, they're about 99% done. They have a few issues they gotta do up next to the building itself, but it's a great thing, great partnership, and a wonderful opportunity for us to get a beautiful parking lot north and south of the building. We're very happy. So I appreciate everything that they've done.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chapman. Is there any one of the board members who would like to add anything to that?
Hallelujah.
Ma'am.
Yeah, what a wonderful thing. Just such an amazing partnership and fantastic.
We can't thank them enough. That's awesome.
Mr. Chapman, do you have any before pictures, or are these all the in process and after?
Ms. Stewart, I didn't want to show any damaged cars because that's what it would have been. So no, I don't.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that our board members, fully understood what a gift this was to community schools.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kowski. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. I appreciate you. Seeing no further action, I declare the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor over to President Lester for the Board Committee of the whole portion of the meeting adjourned.
All right, Superintendent.
I seek your approval to move action item 21.12, acknowledgement of City of Flint donation to the regular board meeting on September 16th. And this is the donation from the pictures that you just had an opportunity to view of the Potter parking lot.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the motion to move action item 21.12, acknowledgement of City of Flint donation to the regular board for adoption, will be conducted by roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Betty Ramsdell.
Yes.
Danielle Green.
Yes.
Carol McIntosh.
Yes.
Sarah Perry.
Yes.
Blake Strozier. Blake.
He's probably asleep.
It's a yes for me. The motion passes 5-0.
I seek your approval to move action item 21.13, authorization to purchase FY21 MAS membership and attend conferences to the regular board meeting on September 16th.
So moved.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the motion to move action of 21.13, authorization to purchase FY21 MASA membership and attend conferences to the regular board for adoption, will be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Betty Ramsdell.
Yes.
Danielle Green.
Yes.
Carol McIntosh.
Yes.
Vera Perry.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Blake, you're not here still? Are you here again? Motion passes 5-0.
I seek your approval to move action item 21.14, authorization to purchase FY21 ASCD membership to the regular board meeting on September 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, discussion. The motion to move action item 21.14, authorization to purchase FY21 ASCD membership to the regular board for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote. Betty Ramsdell,
Yes.
Danielle Green,
Yes.
Carol McIntosh,
Yes.
Yes.
You guys.
Yes.
Sarah Perry,
Yes.
and then a yes for myself. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Superintendent Stewart.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll turn the floor over to Secretary Ramsdell for the Academic Committee of the Whole meeting.
I would like to call the Academic Committee of the Whole meeting to order. I will now call upon Assistant Superintendent Jones to present to the board. Mr. Jones, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead, sir.
All right. I seek your approval to move action item 25.13, recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, 2020, to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
Do I hear approval?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt 2513 Hispanic Heritage Month. I'll go by roll call. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Green?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh? Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier? And myself, Mrs. Ramsdell. Motion.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, okay, got it. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Continue, Mr. Jones.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.14, renewal of Head Start operational agreement, lease agreement, and interagency agreement with Genesee County Community Action Department for 2020-2021 to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will take it, your vote by roll call. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Motion passes 6-0. Mr. Jones, you're up.
I defer 25.15 to Ms. Kozinski.
Good evening, Board. I seek your approval to move action item 25.15, authorization to sign memorandum of understanding with Mott Community College for Gateway to College programming to the regular board meeting September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Although, is there any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Mr. Kelski, how is the Gateway to College program working right now through us being virtual?
You meant Mrs. Szynski, correct? Not Sikowski?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. I was pausing because I wasn't sure what I'd heard. They are following their own programming guidelines, and so I believe they're doing some virtual. I'm not sure if they're doing any in person at this point, but they are conducting the program according to Mott Community College guidelines for the pandemic.
Okay, I can help you here because they are doing all virtual. I'm on a committee there, and we just got that notification. So they are going all virtual there.
Thank you.
Okay.
I thought they were. That was the last I knew.
Yeah.
And how many students do we have in front that are enrolled in the programs now?
Typically, in the last 2 years, we from the county, we typically end up with about 35 to 40 students in the program. It does vary a little bit depending on, sometimes students decide to opt out of the program partially way through. But those students, even if they come from out of the county or outside of the city of Flint, are reported as Flint Community School students, so we get the foundation allowance for those students.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, is there any further questions? They do a good job. That's an interesting program. We should push it more for some of our students. There are no more questions. Roll call vote. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Ms. Green? Ms. McIntosh? Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier?
Yes.
Myself is a yes, so it passes 6-0. Okay, Mr. Jones?
I will defer 25.16 and 25.17 to Miss Kiana Murphy.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I seek your approval to move action item 25.16, authorization to purchase approved items from the school improvement grant FY21 to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we will go through with roll call. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier?
Yes.
Self is a yes. Motion passes 6-0. Mr. Jones?
Yes. 25.18, 25.19, Miss Polly Sozinski.
Thank you. I seek your approval to move action item 25.18, list of approved courses for the school year 2020-2021 to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Lester?
Question.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Just point of reference, isn't this putting the cart before the horse?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't this be considered putting the cart before the horse if we're approving a course of classes and school's been in session for almost a month?
So this is we approved a list of approved courses at the August board meeting. We have added some additional course content because of the changes that the legislature made. I can't remember the exact date in August, but regarding how they were going to be counting students for pupil accounting manual purposes. And so we have amended our list of approved content to include some virtually integrated content for grades K through 8. And this is just to make sure that we are in complete compliance and are ready to, should we be going back to class in person or need to stay virtual, if any scheduling needs to happen, we needed to add this additional course content to our catalog prior to the beginning of the second card marking.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further? Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Green? Okay. Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier? And myself?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. We skipped over 2517.
Yes,
so
we did.
let's go back to that.
Ms. Murphy?
I seek your approval to move action item 25.17, authorization to purchase approved items from the section 103 -2 district COVID allocation to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Ms. Green? Ms. Green?
Yes.
I read your lips. Carol McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier? Myself?
Yes, yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, I think.
So I think it's back to me, Mrs. Ramsdale.
Pardon me?
I said
Got
the
one
last
more.
one more.
Yes, one more.
Okay.
25.
I seek your approval to move action item 25.19, authorization to execute water delivery services contract to the regular board meeting on September 16th, 2020 for adoption.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Mr. Lester?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. McIntosh?
Yes.
Ms. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Strozier?
Yes.
Myself? Vote passed 6-0. Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Polly and Kiana and Kevlin for their present actions. And thank you for all being so punctual and for going through all the rest of this with us. Seeing no further action, I declare the academic committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor back to President Lester.
Okay. Before we adjourn, y'all better not have anything else to say. No, I'm just kidding. Do any individual board members like to make any comments?
I would like to make one, and I'll make it very brief. Going back to the financial thing, we just talked about that they could make payments for things under $5,000, and we just need to know what they are. Perhaps that could be items of information as opposed to having to vote on all of them. It would certainly, it still leaves it open for questions, but we take up so much time with just the structure of it that we then don't have the time or the patience, because it gets on everybody, to go ahead and talk about things that need a much more in-depth. So I would hope people would think about that we could think about all of that and at how we can streamline this and yet still keep our finger on it. So thank you.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great idea, Betty. Do any other board members have any other comments? Seeing no further action, I declare the board committee of the whole meeting adjourned. Everybody have a good night, and I will see you next week.
Night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.